Sau Thế chiến thứ hai, Nhật Bản là một trong số ít các quốc gia thoát khỏi bẫy thu nhập trung bình. Cách đây 10 đến 15 năm, Trung Quốc, nền kinh tế lớn thứ hai thế giới, cũng đã ở trong giai đoạn đó, giai đoạn mà khi Trung Quốc được coi là công xưởng của cả thế giới, thu nhập bình quân đầu người là 6.000 đô la Mỹ, nhưng đồng thời đây cũng là ngưỡng nguy hiểm của nền kinh tế. Tăng trưởng tiền lương ở Trung Quốc có xu hướng chững lại, khoảng cách giàu nghèo lớn hơn, bất ổn xã hội xuất hiện ngày càng nhiều. Tuy nhiên, sau hơn một thập kỷ, Trung Quốc đã biến đổi từ một đất nước được coi là công xưởng lớn nhất thế giới trở thành một nền kinh tế lớn. Trung Quốc đã leo lên những nấc thang cao hơn của chuỗi giá trị toàn cầu như thế nào? Những thay đổi của nền kinh tế Trung Quốc xuất phát từ đâu và dẫn đến những tác động gì? Và điều đó sẽ ảnh hưởng ra sao đến Việt Nam? Tất cả sẽ có trong cuộc trò chuyện với ông Son Ren, nhà sáng lập kiêm giám đốc điều hành của China Market Research Group, một công ty nghiên cứu thị trường từng giúp nhiều công ty như Apple, KFC, LG, DuPont. Ông còn là tác giả của 2 quyển sách nổi tiếng và gây nhiều tranh cãi: Chấm dứt thời đại Trung Quốc giá rẻ và Chấm dứt thời đại Trung Quốc hàng nhái.
Tôi xin kính chào quý vị, mời quý vị bắt đầu theo dõi chương trình Câu chuyện kinh doanh kỳ này. Thưa quý vị, Trung Quốc đang trải qua những thay đổi lớn có thể khiến cho toàn thế giới phải suy nghĩ lại về những gì mà thế giới đã từng hiểu về nền kinh tế này. Đối với Việt Nam thì câu chuyện của nền kinh tế Trung Quốc là câu chuyện được rất nhiều người quan tâm, kể cả đối với người tiêu dùng khi nói về hàng Trung Quốc hay đối với nhà sản xuất khi nói về nguyên vật liệu Trung Quốc. Trong chương trình Câu chuyện kinh doanh ngày hôm nay thì chúng tôi đã mời đến trường quay một chuyên gia chuyên nghiên cứu về nền kinh tế Trung Quốc để có thể có cái nhìn rõ nét hơn về nền kinh tế này. Xin được giới thiệu ông Son Ren là sáng lập kiêm tổng giám đốc của công ty China Market Research Group CMR, đồng thời là tác giả của 2 cuốn sách vừa mới được xuất bản, đó là Chấm dứt thời kỳ Trung Quốc giá rẻ và Chấm dứt thời kỳ Trung Quốc hàng nhái. Và trong chương trình ngày hôm nay thì chúng ta sẽ tập trung vào 2 khái niệm, đó là Trung Quốc giá rẻ và Trung Quốc hàng nhái. Đây cũng sẽ là những bài học cũng như các cơ hội đối với các doanh nghiệp Việt Nam. Good afternoon, Mr. Son Ren. It is our honor to have you in our Fbnc show today. Very recently, your famous 2 books, The End of Copycat China and The End of Cheap China, has been translated into Vietnamese and published into the Vietnam's market. How do you feel about it?
I'm really excited. This is my 3rd time to Vietnam. I haven't been here in 8 years. And it's exciting to see the economic development that has occurred here over the last decade since my last visit. And I think importantly, what I like about having my 2 books come out here is Vietnamese companies and the government understand what are the changes taking place in China, how best to grab advantage. Obviously, Vietnamese businesses to sort of play off the changing power struggle that's going on between the US and China.
Interesting. And there are huge changes about China that could make the world rethink about what they understand about China. So one of which is people say that this is the end of cheap China. So is that a new trend or it has been recognized for some time?
Well, I think it's fairly new. I mean, this book came out in English in 2012, so 5 years ago.
Okay.
And when it came out, I was saying, look, China is no longer a cheap place to manufacture. But what I'll tell you is even though the book came out 5 years ago, there's still a lot of reviews in English coming out last week. Because a lot of Americans, a lot of Europeans don't quite understand what's happening in the country. They think of China as a place of low-cost manufacturing. But actually, what I found is that China is only about 20% cheaper to manufacture now than it is in the United States. I just interviewed the CEO of one of the world's largest tire companies, and they're actually building a new manufacturing plant in South Carolina, in the southern part of the United States, precisely because China is too expensive to manufacture anymore. And that's why you're seeing a lot of companies like toys, apparel, shoes, those types of companies have to move to Vietnam, Sri Lanka, Indonesia, maybe even Africa, where labor costs are still a lot lower and real estate costs. What I argue in the book is that Chinese manufacturers have to move up the value chain. And that's what they've started doing. You're now seeing China has become dominant in aerospace, in auto parts, consumer electronics, and they're really focusing on worker efficiency and importantly, automation.
When they're moving up the value chains, like you say, what is the main factors that can kind of differentiate them apart from being a low-cost factory of the world like they were before?
That's a great question. So people, companies would move their factories to China 20 years ago because it was cheap. Okay. Now it's about two things. The first is about quality control. Okay. What you're seeing is China has become quite good when it wants to on producing top-end, high-end product lines. So if you look, a BMW that's produced in China, I think is as good as a BMW produced in Germany now. You're seeing Airbus has their most efficient, most green energy, and what they consider to be their most high-end manufacturing in Tianjin, China for airplanes. The second thing, Trin, is that now Chinese consumers don't want to make Apple iPhones, they want to buy Apple iPhones. So you're seeing this huge consumer market. China is now a consumer-oriented market rather than a manufacturing-oriented market.
But Sean, what made that changes? Is that from the government kind of level, or because of the market changes itself, so that they have to change themselves?
It's about income. Okay, so salaries have been rising in China 15–20% a year over the last decade. So you have these wealthier consumers who are enriching themselves by getting better jobs. The second thing is the real estate market has also been going up 15–20% a year over the last decade. So they now have money, and they're looking to spend that money. So China itself has become the world's largest or second largest market for companies from KFC fried chicken to Apple iPhones to Starbucks coffee. So when I think Vietnamese businessmen, they need to look at China as the market to sell into. It is the most exciting consumer market in the world today.
True. And speaking of sector-wise, is there any sector that the new China market, if you say, is going into?
Government is really pushing a service-oriented, consumption-oriented society, specifically looking at innovation. And that's what my second book, The End of Copycat China, is looking at how Chinese firms are saying, in order to offset high labor costs, in order to offset high real estate costs and get better margins, we need to focus on innovation. So if you look at it, you have internet players like Tencent, Alibaba, Baidu, I think are 2–3 years ahead of Silicon Valley when it comes to innovation, specifically in things like mobile phone technology, or they're really spending a lot on artificial intelligence and in autonomous driving. Over the next 5–10 years, Trent, China is going to become known as the new Silicon Valley, the new innovation powerhouse of the world, and it's really being driven by the technology companies. Germany is focusing on manufacturing. If you look at it, Germany exports more to China than China exports to Germany. What China needs to do, and you're starting to see it happen, is focus on both. They want to focus on the innovation part, and they want to focus on the manufacturing part. No other country has done this, but because of the sheer size of the population and the economy, China has to do it.
You say in 5 or 10 years they would become a new Silicon Valley. Is that really the key driver for their GDP in the future?
No. I mean, they're moving there. I think it's a driver, but not the key driver. The key driver is more on innovation on industrial. So like producing construction equipment, producing more industrial things like drones. The second thing is a shift towards services. Okay, so Chinese want better access to food, so they're going out to eat at restaurants. They want better access to medical care, better access to education. And that's why you see, like you lived in Melbourne for many years. You probably saw a lot of mainland Chinese going to Melbourne to study because they're looking for better education opportunities. That's the wave of the future.
Well, interesting, and we would like to take a short break here, and we will return to our discussion very soon later. Thank you, John. Thưa quý vị, chúng tôi sẽ tiếp nối phần 2 của chương trình với vị khách mời là ông Sean Ran ngay sau ít phút giải lao.